So we're going to talk about connecting social without silos. And we started getting into social media and customer engagement on social media about 3 years back when we first introduced version 10, and we introduced eGain Social with version 10. And it's actually at that point, most people, including us, didn't really know where we were going with customer engagement on social media. It's actually nice to see now people talking about the things that we had talked about 3 years back, and people moving towards a more platform approach, integrating things into a single channel, into a single customer engagement strategy, and bringing everything together under one umbrella. It's actually now that we've started seeing people having that conversation. So through this session, we'll kind of go over how social media got to the silo state, just a little bit, and then what some of the drawbacks are that we see in the different social media strategies in the market today. And then we'll go over, obviously, a lot of the eGain features that will help you overcome some of these issues with silos. So, quickly, when it comes to social media, when it comes to social media and customer engagement, social media is really the new kid on the block. It's new. Until recently, it's been considered mostly as a publishing channel, mostly used by marketing to improve your brand image, to generate positive buzz, to run campaigns on it, etc. Those have been the priorities on social media. As a pure customer engagement play, it's only starting. It's very fresh. Of course, there's the occasional fire that you still need to fight. So when something goes viral, somebody from marketing has to run over to customer service and try to figure out how to fight that fire. Or there are some siloed customer service or customer engagement activities around social media. Again, not connected with the entire strategy. So what we're basically seeing in a lot of companies as far as customer engagement strategies and social media go, we see two sets of people. There's the one set of people who are the social guys who really think they are too cool to be part of traditional media. They do believe they have a different set of rules they need to play by, and there's a different way to interact on the social network. And on the other side, you have the traditional customer engagement guys who feel social as a channel is either too immature or too volatile to be part of a larger customer engagement strategy. Now, one of the things that we need to look at here to understand why this happens is the differences between a traditional media and social media. I think the primary difference between traditional customer engagement versus social customer engagement is who controls the conversation. Who has control of the conversation? In traditional customer engagement, the business controls every part of the conversation. They tell you when you can contact them, 9 to 5. They tell you how you can contact them. You have an 800 number, maybe an email address. They tell you how long it'll take for them to respond to you, 24 hours, 48 hours. They will decide what information they will share with you or they will not share with you. So all parts of a conversation on a traditional channel is controlled by the business. Whereas in the social channel, the businesses have no control. The customers are going to talk. They're going to talk to each other. And if the businesses don't respond, it's probably going to go viral and have a negative impact on your image. So there is a loss of control on the conversation, and it's one of those things that makes customer engagement organizations reluctant to step into social media as a primary channel or as a first-class channel for customer engagement. It's not saying that people don't do customer engagement on social media. It's different from saying social media is now a first-class channel for customer engagement. It has the same privileges as email or as chat when it comes to customer engagement. The other thing also is it's not always possible to completely measure the benefits of doing customer engagement on social media, at least not in the traditional sense. The traditional metrics that hold good for the traditional channels don't necessarily always hold good for the social channels. So there's a difference in metrics that you need to use. Together, the net effect is social lives in a silo. It may be a silo where you have your marketing organization that controls the entire social media and just transfers over to customer service or customer engagement when necessary, or there might be initiatives within customer engagement where there is a dedicated smaller set of people that engage with customers on social media. Regardless, it's still a silo. It's not integrated into the rest of the larger picture. They don't necessarily talk to the rest of customer engagement and customer service, where you have the phone agents, the chat agents, the email agents, and the history of the customer all mixed together. So that's the missing piece. So if we look at state of social as it is today, some of the common things that we see in places where you have some sort of engagement on social media channel is uneven service. This is a standard problem with a silo, because you're a silo, you don't actually know what's happening on the other channel. So if customers are contacting you via 2 channels, you don't necessarily know what's been said on one channel. You don't provide the same service on the other channel. So you might go through Twitter. The first person who picks it up will say, he's come through Twitter, I got to make sure he gets a good experience, say something, and then 2 days later, the same person calls into the call center, and the call center guy is saying, Twitter post? What's the Twitter post? Happens, right? So, and actually it's something that I noticed and I actually personally experienced when I contacted one of my banks, which does customer engagement on social media. Another thing that we notice is line jumping. This is something that's really becoming common. So almost the same as price shopping that used to happen previously. Keep calling the call center. Somebody's going to give you a better price. Whoever was that agent. So line jumping is the same thing. Throw your same question across every single channel that you could possibly get, and somebody's going to give you a better service. With social media, more common because companies are anxious to service customers on social media, because just in case it becomes viral, just in case it becomes a problem. So you throw away all the rules of engagement that you've built on the traditional channel. You don't build a new set of rules, and you service customers as they come. The problem with this is, obviously, you're driving a lot of traffic into the social media, which is not staffed to handle that kind of traffic. So if suddenly all of your customers decide that social media has better service and everybody decides to abandon your traditional channels, go to your social media channels, would you be able to handle it? Probably not. There's also a cost for line jumping. The rules and the processes that were set up for traditional customer engagement or customer engagement on traditional channels was set up so you process the higher value tickets first, the higher value customers first. You understand where the value is in providing customer service. So line jumping goes around the problem, which means you're not necessarily getting the most value you could probably get out of the interaction. And this is not saying you shouldn't provide better service on a social channel. It's great to provide better service, and it should be better service across all channels, and it should be consistently better service. The other thing that we see is crisis management, and this really happens in case of silos, which customer engagement or customer service divisions don't necessarily participate in. So not every post gets responded to, not every post gets looked at, which means once in a while something gets escalated and becomes a crisis. That's when people jump on it, and now you're in crisis management mode. You have to fight a fire. It's more expensive to do it. And lastly, the fishbowl. Social media is a fishbowl. Everybody sees what you do on social media. There are matters that you cannot discuss with the customer on a public channel. In a siloed setup, it is very hard to take a matter private, resolve it, and then bring it back to a public channel. It's one of those things that's very hard to do in a siloed channel because you're not connected with the other channels which are private. If you are connected with the other channels that are private, there is a possibility you could do it. So for example, if somebody comes in and says, I've got a medical problem, you probably want to stop that person right there and say, wait, let's go off chat. We'll figure out what your problem is. We'll get you connected to the right person. You don't want to continue that conversation for obvious reasons on the social channel. Same goes with other sensitive information of that sort. So again, this is the problem of a siloed approach. In a connected system, these are problems that we can resolve. So stepping back from silos, let's just take a look at what forms the different parts of social engagement. So the first part of this is conversations. And conversations is, I think, what most people that I talk to consider as social engagement. So this is where companies talk to a customer or a set of customers, or customers talk between themselves on a social channel. I'm bucketing that under conversations. And I'm not calling it engagement because I believe engagement is a larger bucket. There's more to engagement than just conversations. So I'm just going to call it conversations. But most people I talk to, that's what forms engagement on a social channel. The second one, I'm skipping a couple of those, going to social marketing. Social marketing is your campaigns that you run on a social network, the positive buzz that you generate, the monitoring that you do on social network, all of that falls under social marketing. And again, most people that I talk to, that's social engagement. If you take conversations and social marketing, that forms the entirety of social engagement to a large part of the people that I talk to. We think it's only half the story. There are critical elements missing from it. Communities, I know it's been around for a long time, and it's still social, and it's probably one of the most underlooked or undervalued part of social media. Not undervalued part just to social media, not the organization. But why are communities that important? Communities for organizations are the best place where you can build brand advocates. And what I mean by strong brand advocates is people who are ready to talk on your behalf, defend you where needed, and get into conversations that you as a company cannot get into. And this is really critical on a social network. There are a lot of conversations that as a company, you can't step into. The minute you step into it, it's going to go viral. It's already volatile. That's where if building strong brand advocates helps you. If your brand advocates will step into the conversation, they're not part of the company, so it's not going to be seen as a negative on a social network. So communities are the best place for a company to build strong brand advocates. And it's one of those things that's often overlooked or not considered as much in a complete social media strategy. And the last part of it, the part that's completely ignored in most cases, is social knowledge. There's a lot of knowledge that's generated on social networks, in blogs, in communities. If you follow blogs and communities, a lot of the problems get solved faster on blogs and communities than a company actually solves them themselves. It's because they move faster. If there is a problem, say, with your device, chances are they'll find a workaround for it way before you know there is a problem with your device. It's an easy way for companies to extend, augment, or enrich their knowledge base by just bringing in or pulling in that knowledge that's already being generated on the social network. Yet not a lot of people have a strategy that will bring that knowledge in. So those are 4 parts of the social engagement, and we'll now quickly see how the eGain tools plays into each one of these parts. So start with conversations, and this is obviously our strong play, and this is where we play very well. And we start with the unified agent desktop. So what we have is an agent desktop that's capable of handling all channels. It's the same desktop, same view, but it adapts to the channel that you're handling. which means if you're handling a Twitter post, it does the small things like make sure you're only typing in 140 characters. It knows it's a Twitter post. It shows you content that's relevant to Twitter. In addition, having a unified agent, the other thing having a unified agent desktop allows you to do is allows you to seamlessly switch channels. So for those conversations that I just talked about where you cannot have that conversation in public, you can easily bring that person back into a traditional channel. So in this example I have up here, so you could send a message out that says, I would love to solve your problem. We understand what it is. Come and chat with me. Here is a link. Now, channel switching, not always the best thing to do, but as long as you're doing it for the right reason and you can resolve the problem the very first time you switch the channel, it's still effective. And some issues do require you to switch channels. So when you click on the link, this is the important part. When you click on the link, a chat gets generated, sent through our system again. It may or may not hit the agent. You can configure it to hit the agent, but it may not hit the same agent. But the agent that gets hit with the chat immediately gets to see a 360-degree customer view, which is everything that we know about that customer till that point, including all interactions that we've had with that customer on all the other channels. The agent also gets to see that particular chat is connected to a case that originated in Twitter. The Twitter and the chats linked together as part of the same case, which makes it easy for the agent to get context of what the problem was. And instead of asking the customer, what is your problem? You could say, hey, I see that you posted on Twitter, and we've asked you to come and chat with us. It's a big difference between a connected experience and a siloed social experience. Oh, just another thing that I forgot to mention here. We do have the ability, so as I mentioned, to tie in the traditional identity of the customer, which is your standard email, your postals, your chat address, etc., to your social identity. There's no magic in doing this. This is still a manual process. I know there are many different efforts underway to try and link these things together. But when you do a channel switch and bring them into a private channel, it's the easiest thing to do. The minute they hit the chat link, you know who the customer is. You can tie the identities together. Once it's tied, your entire history is the same, and you get a view across all channels for that customer. Unified workflows is what drives this whole thing. So when that Twitter post hit our system, the way it got directed to the agent, the decision that was made on whether or not we should answer that Twitter post, who should answer that Twitter post, all of that's done through the unified workflows. And the advantage with these workflows is you get to use parts of the customer identity that are not necessarily social. So things like, oh, I know this customer, he's a high-value customer, he's listed as gold in my system, with the social identity of the customer saying, he's on Twitter and he's got 10,000 followers. All of those can be tied together in making a decision on whether or not you want to respond to that post, whether or not you want to engage with that customer, and what and how you want to engage with that customer. And once the engagement's done, we have omnichannel analytics that can tie the entire thing together. So you can run your analytics on the social channel, or you can run your analytics across channels to see how your service is doing in all of these different channels. So the analytics that brings all of these things together, that makes things measurable. And lastly, on the same conversations point, this is one of the things that people don't always consider in the beginning. It's a question. I know there are a few people out from Europe here, but otherwise, how many of you have heard of something called Hello Peter? This is something that it's one person. If you're not from South Africa, chances are you've never heard of it. It's a cross between Yelp and BBB, very important for companies who operate in South Africa, not important for anybody else. So if you start looking at a social platform, the common things, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, etc., will be covered. But what happens to these other networks that are specific to your location, your region, or your industry? How do you cover those? How do you start monitoring those? What you need at that point is a solution that's extendable, that can be configured to go after these networks, as long as you have the ability to read stuff from them, so some sort of an API to do it. So what we have with the eGain system is the capability to connect to any network that provides us an API or that exposes an API that allows us to connect to them. So that enables us to bring in field solutions for industry-specific blogs that you may be interested in, or Hello Peter as an example, and bring all of that information back into the system as well. So that's conversations. Let's take a quick look at communities. Again, very underappreciated part of social media, especially since the advent of Facebook and Twitter. We do have a full-fledged community product, which is the eGain community. It's got all the standard features that you would find in most of the other communities. Lots of forums, moderation, user access controls, all the jazz that you find. What I did was I picked out 2 features to put in my slide set, mainly because I get asked about these most. First question I get asked is it completely integrated into the platform, and can we single sign-on into it? So it is completely integrated into the platform. You can single sign-on into the community as a customer from the portal or as an agent from the agent console. So if you have community enabled, you will see an extra link on the consoles page. Lets you single sign-on straight into the community. It's integrated in every way with the platform. The other question that I get asked very often is, does it support gamification? I think popularized by communities like Lithium with the Kudos system. We do have capabilities around gamification in our community as well. So what we have in our community is ratings and rankings. Ratings are what you provide to posts and posters that when you rate a post, that automatically gets translated by a formula into a rating for the poster. And Edmund, thanks for the nice picture. And somewhere here in the room you can find him. And we have rankings, which basically is what you would see right below the username. It's ranking, and it's completely configurable. In this case, we have decided to go with Star Wars terminology. Padawan is the lowest level, or an apprentice as a Jedi apprentice. Yeah, it's an internal forum that we use, so just leave it at that. It's completely configurable. It depends on how you contribute to the forum. Based on your contributions, you get different rankings. And where gamification really plays into community is it gives incentive for people to contribute to the community as they want to move up the ladder. They can show themselves as valued contributors to the company, and you can provide incentives for them to get to the highest level. Social knowledge, that's the third bit. So what we have with social knowledge, as I mentioned earlier, a lot of knowledge gets generated in social networks. And normally, this is knowledge that gets generated ahead of what you would do, or faster than what a company would move, or in areas where a company would not invest in generating that knowledge. It's simple for a company to bring that knowledge into their knowledge base and augment or enrich their knowledge base. So we have a couple of ways to do it. For knowledge that's generated within the community, within the eGain community, we have the ability to push that out to our knowledge base. Once it's pushed to our knowledge base, we can tie it to a workflow. Somebody can go and clean that thing up and figure out how it needs to be presented to the end user. That's one way. For knowledge that gets generated within social media and Facebook or blogs, same process. Once we pull that information into our system, we can suggest that in as a knowledge article, and that can again go through a workflow, get cleaned up, and become part of your knowledge. Now, if you don't want to bring things into the knowledge base, which is sometimes a sensitive issue, especially with social media, you do have to give credits to people who have actually authored the article. The other way to do it is federated search. So from our portal, our from our federated search, we can send our search out to to communities, our own as well as external communities, to blogs and any other websites that you might be interested in. We bring all the results back and we show them clearly marked on the portal. And the reason I say clearly marked is it is important to let your customer know what's an article that's been authored by a company, which means it's trustworthy and it's completely believable, whereas what's an article that's been pulled from a community or a blog or a social media site, which may not be as polished or may not be completely accurate. So giving that clear indicator is important when you start bringing in content from a social network. And finally, a customer example that I can actually put up. Virgin's one of our customers in UK. What they have done with Knowledge is very interesting. Their Facebook page has a tab called Customer Help. Customer Help tab has a widget which pushes knowledge from or I shouldn't say push, since you define push in a different way, but it gets knowledge from our knowledge base and displays it as part of their Customer Help page. And clicking on any of those will take you to their help section. We can actually embed the entire help portal into a Facebook page as well. We could do that similarly with other networks as well. And this is something that a lot of people don't realize that we could do, and it's actually a very powerful tool. So people looking for customer support on your Facebook site who are not going to normally visit your website and look at your help and support section now can be redirected or can be directed to go and look at the help and support section for information first before they ask for customer service. So it's part of deflection. So that's a whole bunch of things that you could do with Knowledge. Moving on to the last facet of social engagement strategy, social marketing. Now, social marketing is a place that we actually don't play in. It's a very specialized place. It's a place where there are specialized tools that you use for publishing, the specialized tools you use for campaign management, et cetera, et cetera. We don't play in that space. We don't have a lot of capabilities in that space. But does that mean we make it a silo? Now, our strategy on the social marketing space is to build out-of-the-box connectors, and these are things that we're actually working on right now, to social publishing, monitoring, and other social campaigning platforms. The market leaders, the tools in the space that people are familiar with, the tools that are popular. So what we are planning to do is build out-of-the-box connectors to these tools so you can still have a complete integrated solution, but it does not necessarily all have to come from one tool. So again, we're working on it, and you should be seeing some of these things come in the future versions of the product. Oops, went too fast. Up next. So just wanted to cover a few things that we were planning on doing. So up next, we're going shopping. I think John covered some of it yesterday in a social shopping piece. This is a slightly different use case of the same technology. So this is using our co-browse technology and the power of communities. Now, I have to set this up properly. So assume you have a community that is running, that you've nurtured, and you have people contributing to the community. And over time, you have given them points, and you have identified who's an expert at what part of the product. And so there's some way that you have identified those. Once that's done, a customer who is browsing a particular page on your website and he's taking a little bit of time there, gets an indication of other people who are online on the community at that point, who are experts in that part of the company website, who can possibly help them, guide them, or assist them. And if the person wants to talk to them, it's easy to just click. So we just give a slight nudge saying, hey, here are a few experts on this part of the product. Would you like to speak to them? And as we all know, research has already shown that customers would rather listen to customers than listen to companies talk. So connecting customers and letting customers explain things to other customers is an easy way to keep the customer engaged and hopefully move them towards a buying decision. And that's really the in place. So it's using the power of communities, bringing that in together with our co-browsing capability where we can let two people look at the same screen at the same time and do things like annotate on the screen and have a chat session right there. And this is what we call a non-interruptive experience. What we would normally do today is pop up an offer and say, can we help you? The first thing the offer does is take them to a chat page. So you've already interrupted what is their current experience by moving them over to a chat section. So this allows you to keep them on the page, without interrupting their current experience, but engage with other customers who are more familiar with those things or who are more knowledgeable and get help. Avoids the call to your contact center, reduces the number of support calls. So again, something that we're working on, we're very excited about what this technology could bring. Extension of that, social shopping, John's already covered that in his section yesterday, so I'm not going to go over the details of it again. So I just wanted to leave you guys with some of the things that we're planning. We're excited about where we can take social, and it's definitely one of the focus points for us as we move forward in customer engagement. Thank you, guys.